Alright, so we're back in the world of Space Marines 2, and if you guys have played the game even a little bit, you've noticed probably right about this time that the game can be relatively difficult. And being so that the game is actually relatively difficult, you want to get as much power as quickly as possible, and how to do that is sometimes a little bit tricky if you're not very familiar with the method. The reality is the difference between a fully leveled, fully geared out character and someone who just entered into the Space Marines world is actually pretty significant. With proper weapon upgrades, perks, and many other things, you start to see a significant increase in survivability, damage, and overall how fast you can finish and clear content. Unfortunately, some of these methods are not very clear to every player, so in this video I'm going to be showing you all the different methods that you can use to give yourself actual power so that you can be more powerful as you adventure through everything that Space Marine 2 have to offer. I don't want to waste any more time, let's dive right on in. Alright, so starting off, obviously one of the easiest ways to get some form of power is going through your character perks, and to pretty much get as many perks as possible that could in theory fit for your character and different playstyles. As you level up a individual Marine, you will eventually unlock perks within a row that will eventually give you enough power that you can increase the difficulty for more XP. Unfortunately, the first row is, in my opinion, typically not the best because while some of the skills are really good, they don't necessarily form into a good build. So in a lot of cases, you actually need to unlock, in my opinion, at least 2 rows before you start to see a significant power increase depending on the Marine. Once again, this is probably one of the more simple things that most of you guys understand. The best way to get some easy power is to level up as quickly as possible and get different perks. Keep in mind, not only do I have a video on the channel right now that you're probably seeing in the top right corner, it will be linked down in the description, that shows you exactly how to level very quickly, but also I'm going to have a mountain of builds on the channel as well that's going to give you some direction on how to make your character pretty strong. We already have a build video for the Assault out and about, so you can go check that out if you are an Assault player. But yeah, simply put, getting as many levels as possible is going to give you a ton of power. Level 25 is the max, so that's what you're aiming for. Alright, next thing we need to talk about is weapons. Now, weapons is going to be your other method of being able to get power. As you can see now, the difference between a standard issue Thunderhammer for the Assault class compared to something like the relic level weapon, the Aphelion Liberation Gamma, is pretty significant, giving you 7+ increased power and some increased speed. That is literally a 3x increase on your strength and a little bit increase on your speed, and that is a pretty significant amount of power whenever you're facing off, and it's noticeable. How do you unlock these weapons? Well, they're very simple. First off, you'll notice here that every single one of your character's weapons have a experience. Simply put, you just need to deal damage, kill with your weapon, or just simply have it while you're doing missions to gain XP. Once you gain enough XP, you will be able to essentially unlock each of these individual columns and spend some of your tokens to actually earn this. The tokens in question are called artifact tokens. These are represented here in the top right. There is a green, a blue, and a golden yellowish color. I'm colorblind, so just keep in mind that the color may be a little bit off. But these are the different colors that you're going to use to unlock different tiers. Doing your Mastercraft is going to take the greenish. Doing your Artificer, it's going to be the bluish purplish ones, and doing the Relic is going to be your yellow ones. So this is going to be the way that you unlock each of these individual weapons, and you need to do this. In order to get these artifacts, you simply need to do different difficulty levels on different operations. So as you can see here, when you're on minimum level, you get access to the greenish ones. When you're on average, you also get access to the greenish ones. When you do substantial, you'll get access to the purplish or bluish ones. And then whenever you get ruthless done, you will have access to the golden ones. Now, completing the mission does not mean that you will absolutely get this. It just means that you'll have access to possibly getting them. The way I was able to find these relic or armory data tokens were simply looking around the world. Sometimes they can be in different locations. I'm pretty sure there's some set deterministic spawns. I don't know them yet. And then the other way is by killing very special enemies, typically the boss style enemies that are not necessarily the final boss, if that makes sense. It'll be on screen now, you probably see it. And these guys actually have an opportunity to drop them, and what you need to do is simply finish the mission to get them out. Now, will every single mission have one of these available? I'm a little bit new to the game, so I'm not 100% sure, but I have a sneaking suspicion that there will always be one present in each mission that you do. Now, once you actually get that done, you're going to use those relics to unlock the next tier, and use that to give yourself the ability to buy them, which will take some of your requisition, which we're going to talk about in a second. But you're going to use that to get those new weapons. You're going to use your experience to upgrade them and master them, and that's where you're going to get perks. And yes, there are also weapon perks. That's very important to note. As you can see on screen now, I have the ability to get Perpetual Strength, which will give me 5% increased melee damage. I also have really cool things like this. Minor Slayer, that's going to give me minor level enemies 20% increased damage. Something even as beautiful as Dead End, which is going to give me 50% more damage on my Pummel Slash. And then things like Aftershock Improvement. Aftershock gains an additional spin. So long story short, whenever you have all those different perks built into your character naturally from leveling up and selecting proper skills, and then actually going into your perk tree for your each individual weapons, keep in mind every single one of the weapons that you have equipped has this option, so you actually end up getting a ton of power. You actually end up being in a situation where the power that you gain is actually significant enough that whenever you're actually doing the high-end content, that it actually makes a really big difference. Sorry guys, quickly I want to add something in post-editing that I didn't add initially. I saw this question come up while I was actually exporting the video, and someone asked me how does the weapon system work, and as a new player are you making a mistake by upgrading a specific weapon? Now, one thing I will say about this weapon system, because I do want to give advice on this, is when you're choosing to use your relic points or your armory points on that specific weapon because it is unique to that weapon, like if you swap to a different secondary type, base type, then of course that won't carry over to that secondary base type. So it is important that you commit to a weapon type that you like and it feels good, so you inherently do lose that armory piece that you initially invested into that weapon type. But the perks themselves that you inherently invest in under the perk tree of that specific weapon, you can reset that at any time. So if you guys are wondering, yeah, there is a little bit of commitment when it comes to like spending your armory points whenever you're upgrading a weapon. Now, before we end out this video, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that was the Requisition, because I did say I will give you a very quick fair warning. One thing that's important to know about Requisition is actually used for multiple things. The main thing being used for giving yourself some significant upgrades, and the other relatively important thing is it gives you the ability to purchase armor pieces to make your character look really cool. The problem with this is, well, if you're anything like me, you like armor because it looks really damn cool, and you actually end up spending a lot of your Requisition on this armor, and it can be pretty pricey. I think some pieces are actually comparable to Artificer level of like cost, and you can actually end up spending a lot of like your Requisition on that, so you want to be mindful of not to overspend. Again, you can do content like operations on higher difficulties to get this, but you do need to complete it. The only other way that I've seen to get Requisition is completing these trials that you see on screen. They're not necessarily that difficult in my opinion, but this is going to be some ways to get Requisition. It's a one-time thing, so be mindful of that. But this is going to be a trap that you guys need to make sure to avoid whenever you're trying to get power for your character. I would highly recommend that you're strong enough to complete substantial level and then maybe consider getting outfit pieces, in my opinion. Now, I'm not a fan of telling players that cosmetics is something that you should put on hold, because cosmetics is by far one of the most important things in the entire game. But keep in mind that it is very important to note if you are a new player just coming in, because you don't want to like lose out on a lot of the power that you could otherwise get early. And there you have it, guys. That is my information on how to get powerful relatively quick, and just, you know, understanding the basics when it comes to it. It can be a little bit confusing, especially like the perk menu, because it took me a moment to like figure this whole thing out. Now, if I did miss anything, guys, do consider leaving it down in the comments, because it helps everyone out in the community. Don't forget to check out the build videos as well as the other tips and tricks on Space Marines 2. And just like that, guys, I'll see you in the next one very, very soon.